let's get started. So we're talking about adding and subtracting fractions today. And the key fact for adding and subtracting fractions is that they must have a common denominator. So if that's true, then you're going to find yourself in one of two worlds. Either in world one, where these fractions have a common denominator. You can see the denominator is the number that's in the bottom of the fraction. So you can see that these denominators are the same, 5 and 5. And these denominators are the same, 7 and 7. Or you find yourself in world 2, where you don't have common denominators yet, but we can do something to get it. So here, these two fractions do not have a common denominator. This denominator is 5 and this is 10. So we'll have to do some manipulation of these fractions so that they do have a common denominator, and then we can add or subtract them. Okay, so in this case where they do have a common denominator, they're ready to add. So 1/5 plus 3/5 makes 4/5. And 2/7 minus 5/7 is going to make -3/7. So this is world 1, common denominator. This is the easiest of the two cases. So in case 2, in world 2, these fractions are not ready to add up yet because they don't have a common denominator. So what we do is we use this one of our mathematical facts over here, that something divided by itself is equal to 1. And when you multiply 1 times a number, you get the number back that you started with. So over here, if we multiply this fraction by a form of 1, I notice here that if I multiply 5 by 2, then it will make 10, and then we'll have a common denominator. So if we multiply 3/5 by a form of 1, there we go, a form of 1, 2/2, now this fraction, we're changing its form. We're not changing its value because we're multiplying by 1, but we're just changing its form. So now we have 6/10. Okay, 3/5 is equivalent to 6/10 plus 3/10. And now we're ready to add these two fractions because they have common denominators. So 6/10 plus 3/10 makes 9/10. Okay. And this is the same idea, just a little bit more complicated because it's not as obvious what number we should multiply by to make a common denominator here. In this case, we only had to multiply one of the fractions by 1 to get a common denominator, but in this case, we're going to have to multiply both. So what I'm noticing is that if I multiply 7 by 3, I get 21, and if you multiply this 3 by 7, we'll also get 21. So this is the form of 1 that we can multiply to get our common denominator. Our common denominator can be 21. So we'll multiply here this first fraction by a form of 1, and we'll multiply this second fraction by a form of 1. Then we'll have our common denominator and we'll be ready to subtract. So here we have 9/21. And here we're going to have 7/21. And now we're ready to subtract since the denominator is the same. 9/21 or 7/21 minus 7/21 is equal to 2/21. And that's it. That's the end of the story.